All right, we're live. Hey everyone, it's Dorka, and my guest today, I'm going to let him introduce himself and what he's working on, but from the title, we're talking about horror and history comics. So who are you, and what are you all about?
Hello, my name is Aaron Williams. I'm actually a comic artist from the United States, and what I'm currently working on right now is a comic called Six Nations, which has just been completed. But essentially, what my favorite things to do are, in terms of illustrations, are comic illustration. I do oil paintings and photorealism and stuff like that. But when it comes to what my favorite thing is, it's superheroes and comic books and that type of illustration. And I have some at the ready that I'm working on and stuff, so I could show you some stuff throughout
Yeah,
us speaking here.
definitely. So what is Six Nations about?
Oh, interestingly enough, Six Nations, which I've got back here. I've got it ready. I've got it prepped to send over the border. uh,
Nice.
but it is based in the 1700s, and essentially it combines elements of horror, mysticism, just all types of different fantasy, and also historical elements. So there's historical accuracy that we adhered to as well, and things like that, but only to a certain extent on the historical representation, because we had to, of course, uh, craft a story, and make it original. But the bottom line is, it's a hero named Wakiha, and Wakiha was basically chosen from his tribe. He's a hunter gatherer type in his tribe, and he was chosen by the elders to basically undergo a type of transformation of the mind. So, for instance, there's a rite of passage, and during this rite of passage, the elder will take him to a certain cave, and then they'll he'll introduce the mushroom, which they'll ingest, and then of course see things and go places in their mind. And so
Mhm.
that it basically, it's a journey throughout all kinds of interesting different elements that we try to tap on. But the bottom line is the French invade their land, and yeah, Wakiha really needs to step up and be a superhero.
Okay. Okay, cool. I like that. I like that approach where it's not a superhero comic in the literal sense, but in a different way.
Right, 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 right.
Right. So, are you're just the artist for this project? Do you have a writer, or are you
Yeah,
writing it?
I'm just the illustrator. Although the writer has allowed me to make some critiques, so I got to add a few elements to the story, and I'm going to help him edit it. Since he's a French Canadian and his native
Mhm.
tongue is French, then I'm going to help him with the whole English translation and things like
Nice.
that too. So we kind of really paired up and became a strong team, and are just making a one heck of a concerted effort to see to it that we created not only an interesting product, but a top notch product
Nice.
as well. And speaking of which, I'll get some of these illustrations I was speaking of.
Yeah.
Red eye.
For it.
Yeah, I got him in this plastic sack back here, and
Wow.
figured
That
I'll just pull some of these puppies out right there real quick. And
yeah.
well, I had to get a copy of everything
Hmm.
before I sent it. So
So you work
that was,
entirely traditionally for this.
oh yeah, absolutely. That's just what I prefer to do. I
Mhm.
have had many people, where I've had, converted my work over to digital. So it's
Mhm.
very common for me to convert it over to digital. But uh, yeah, I'm thinking of the best way to kind of show you some of these. Were you able to see that previous?
Yeah.
I just, how about if I just turn this baby around like this?
Yeah. Go for it. Nice. Wow. I mean, I can. Yeah. I mean, I can see it pretty fine so far, and there's so much detail I can tell. Even though I can't see every detail, I can tell there's a lot.
Indeed.
Wow. Do you use reference at all for these things, especially like the
Uh,
backgrounds?
I generally do not.
Wow.
So, um,
How do you? I mean, that always fascinates me. I need references for everything, but how do you get to a place in your art where where you can just see it and start drawing it? You don't have to use reference when you're working on it.
I've just always kind of been that way, and I've always done that. And
Hmm.
so, oddly enough, there are, there's a good 10% of the time where I'll have to just take a look at something, and
Mm.
go, man, I really need a reference on that. But for the most part, I just see it in my mind, and whatever I see, I just throw it, I start to throw it down on the page. And that's the interesting thing, when I'm working with people, is that I let them know it's like whatever your mind's eye can fathom
Hmm.
is what I want to put on to the page.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
that's the exciting thing when I start working with people, because all these different interesting ideas or concepts or entities or characters or whatever, they get to see them use their powers, or they finally get to see them illustrated, in a certain way to where, you know, they feel like it's, you know, how it's represented in their mind. And that's what always the most magical thing for me, is when I get to present the final piece, and when I get to see their face. Oh man, that's the most exciting thing for me.
Cool. Um, oh, what I wanted to ask was, oh yeah, are you inspired by Charles Burns at all? I think that's the artist I'm thinking of.
I am not really acclimated with the Charles Burns myself.
Hmm.
It doesn't sound necessarily familiar, so I'll
Yeah,
have to
I don't
see
know
what the
much
heck
about
it
his
is.
work. Yeah, I don't know much about his work. I have one of his books. I think it's called Black Hole. Maybe that's what he's most known for. Um, but the
Oh,
Yeah, but the page you were turning away from, it kind of reminded me, and also just how you have this heavy use of blacks and just black and white and not a lot of gray tones. Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, just and yeah, like I was saying, when we had first met, it was like your anatomy is amazing, and it reminds me of like Jack Kirby and even I guess Frank Frazetta to a degree too.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I feel like yeah, I love like just the contrast of the black and white, and you don't use gray tones at all. You prefer not to.
Very seldom. There are elements where I'll introduce that. For instance, oh, the final page right here,
Mhm.
where there's this great big shadow that Joaquin is standing in, or running from the enemy, and he's in the enemy shadow. And I
Nice.
just I went pretty crazy with the gray areas there. Um,
Okay.
Here's some on this page.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Something. Love this. It's cool. And yeah, I don't mean to make it sound like not having green tones is a bad thing. I
No, no,
like the
no.
stark
But I
contrast.
know
It's
what you
more
mean. I know what you mean. It's always kind of been a weakness.
definitely. So did you go to school to study art or are you all self-taught?
Completely self-taught, in fact. So just like, whatever kind of thing I see in my head, any kind of way I envision it is the way that I'll draw it. And
Mhm.
so it's just kind of always been that way, really.
Okay. How does that work for comics? How do you I guess did you go about a way of deliberately practicing at a certain point? Like okay, I need to learn this, and this, or do you just continue to just draw what you feel like drawing and you learn as you go?
Um, Initially, I was just kind of trying to imitate my favorite artists and stuff. And I was so young that I didn't realize who was inspiring me until I got a little older. So, I was 8, 9, 10 years old, and I was trying to emulate Neil Adams.
Hmm.
So that's the type of artist that's always inspired me. That's why when you say Frank Frazetta, who's one of my favorites,
Hmm.
um, Todd McFarlane's been one of my all-time favorites. I still think he's probably the greatest inker in the game, in fact.
Cool.
But yeah, just all these different cats that inspired me. And then when I got older, I realized, oh wow, those guys are really something, and that helped to craft my art. That helped to shape my art. So I guess that was a good reference for me. Uh, to kind of a reference for me, and in my mind for when I was creating things or drawing things. So uh, like I said, there's a good 10% of the time where I got to go back and go, how does that go now? How do those
Mm.
muscles lay?
Of
And
course.
especially when it comes to hands and fingers,
Oh yeah.
you know. But
So much, yeah, and so much going on there.
yeah, are you able to hear me okay still?
Yes, yes, sounds great.
Cool.
Yeah. So, what tools do you use to do your artwork since you work traditionally, specifically for comics?
I use these here Faber Castell, these artist pens.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if you guys can see that, but
Yeah.
there's a couple different. I use like a point one, a point five. I got myself a point seven right here, and then we got the big dude, which is the SB, which is a brush pen, which I
Hmm.
really like because I can go in and get all my blacks real easy. Get
Nice.
some heavy blacks and bring out some of the stuff, and then I can go hit it with the detail pens after that,
Mm,
and kind of really do my thing and have fun with each piece that way.
cool. And so those are all mostly they're technical pens, technically, or are they
Um, I guess
artists?
essentially you could say that, yeah, because they're
Yeah.
not cheap. They're somewhat expensive, and they're I can only find them at like Hobby Lobby or
Mm,
the art store.
gotcha. Yeah, I'm wondering because how do you work towards getting varied lines with technical pens? Because that's one of the things they're very uniform.
Well, there's a good little secret with the point five and the point seven. What you could do is if you're feathering and you're working your feathers in, or you're trying to crosshatch or whatever, you can really kind of just start by pushing down harder on the pin and then end up releasing the pressure at the end and get a decent amount of line weight in there. As you can see, here's some stuff where I got
Oh wow.
different bits of line weight.
Yeah, that's cool. What'd you use for the color?
Good old Crayolas and some colored pencils.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Would never have guessed. Um,
Resourceful, aren't I? Oh, here's
yeah.
the piece. Here's the piece I was telling you about with the gray area with the heavy shadow.
Ah, okay, okay. Nice. Wow. That looks
Yeah, I
so
decided to render all inside there.
yeah, that's cool.
It's pretty
Um,
wicked stuff.
yeah.
Like
Um,
I say, horror element. You know.
yeah, actually, yeah, so, from that horror piece you showed, I guess what do you like about horror, drawing horror, and also if you like reading horror comics, what do you like about it?
Um, I'm a big gore hound.
Mm,
So, I dig all that, all the bloods and the guts and all that stuff, and I really liked the old school horror movies that I grew up on back in the
mm,
'80s, where they used all the practical effects and things like that, and the prosthetics and whatnot, and the blood bags and everything. Because nowadays everything is CGI, and
yeah.
all that computer generated stuff is just it's I don't know. They're using it so much, it just makes it so that suspension of disbelief goes out the window.
Okay.
Whereas it wasn't like that when they used the practical effects and things were actually tangible and really there. You know what I
Mm,
mean? But because I was talking to a buddy and I was telling him. it's really cool to see, the Incredible Hulk and all that stuff. But when
Mm.
they have all these great big characters that rush across the screen and look like they're filled with helium, it just changes things.
Definitely. Actually, that would be something to see a rated R Hulk film. That'll be
That'd be that would probably be interesting.
that'd be yeah, pretty
Wolverine
insane.
would probably be in that.
Yeah. Well, did you see Logan?
I did not, in fact. I
Oh, recommend it. I love. I mean, I just enjoyed it. And I don't know much about the X-Men comics or really about those, but I really enjoyed that film. Um, yeah, and Wolverine rated R. I mean, it's kind of the only way he should be.
Oh, is it rated R?
Yeah, it's rated R.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, that's a tease
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like that's the best way to get the most out of Wolverine. is to give-
Oh, just like Punisher Warzone. Have you ever seen that?
No, is that animated?
No, no, it's
No.
live action.
Okay. No, I
Frank
haven't seen
Castle
that.
at his finest.
Nice.
I highly recommend it. And if you don't like blood and guts, don't watch it.
Gotcha.
So,
Sure.
because it's the Punisher.
Nice. Um, and speaking of, I guess, so practicing, I guess, knowing anatomy, how to draw it helps be able to do the gore. And of course, just have good drawings for characters in your art. But how do you, any anatomy practicing tips in general? What do you do? And then what do you recommend?
When I was in like fifth grade, I want to say, good old Mrs. Price, God love her, she is awesome. She was my art teacher at two different schools. In fact, she was really great. She was really cool. But anyway, she gave me a few Xerox runoff copies of some
Mm,
Bern Hogarth's anatomy lessons, and I learned some stuff from that. And then I also learned from my favorite artists too. So where I learned the most was when I bought Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks
okay.
and stuff like that. Any Leonardo da Vinci stuff where it has his works and his explanations and things. That right there will make you a better artist. Just sometimes just by just reading it, but you know, like
Hmm.
osmosis or something. But yeah, Leonardo is the, he's the best. He was the best to me.
Nice. Nice. So going back to just Six Nations, which you've just wrapped up, and working with this artist, how did no, your writer, excuse me, how did you find your writer?
Um, in fact, he found me through a Facebook group, a comic book group on Facebook, where it was connecting artists and writers, comic book artists and writers in particular. And he'd seen some of my work, and he contacted me and told me his idea, and then it gave me an idea. So off of what he told me, I went ahead and created a sketch of his main character, which is named Joaquin, which I was telling you about earlier. Which, we've seen a few little bits and snippets of Joaquin there, but I went ahead and drew that and then showed that to him, and then I decided to ink it as well because that's really where everything starts to shine. That's where it pops is when you ink it, and you get to see the final product. And so when I did that, that really, he said, just made an impact. He said he could really, like we were talking about earlier, it's like, he's like, man, I've seen my character, man. You made it come to life for real, man. Because he's got that accent, man, which is totally cool because it reminds me of one of my favorite musicians. But yeah, and he was just so excited, and it was cool. And this ever since then, we've built a quite a rapport and become good friends, in fact. But
Cool.
yeah, his name's Kevin Bouchard, and he's written something. He's written a few other things, and had some projects going and in the works, and other things that he wants to put out too. So um, not he's going to the Neil Gaiman. He's doing the Neil Gaiman, master class for
Hmm.
writing, all kinds of stuff. So he's over the past few months, he's really just like boomed, with all these story ideas and ways of looking at things, and uh, like I said, he let me put my Twilight Zone twist on the Six Nations story, and
Cool.
so it's the way we've collaborated has been really interesting, and I think ultimately it's going to be effective too because I mean, there's a lot of other cats that are checking it out and they're jumping on board, and
Hmm.
everybody that does is just, man, it's like cool. Let's but
Nice.
yeah, so good old Kev.
Awesome. And so it's kind of what do kind of an interesting what I want to ask you about next is, typically it's easy to kind of ask writers what they look for in an artist partner, but what are things like you look for in an art in a writer partner, and what do you think other artists should look for to decide if they should work with a writer?
Well, interestingly enough, I've been chalked quite a few ideas and worked with a plethora of different styles of writers, and I've learned what to look out for and not look, and not worry about, and what to look for and not look for, so to speak. And what my formula is I want, I like to make sure that they're going to have an interesting idea. It's something that first and foremost I'll also be interested in because that's important as well. And make sure that it's somewhat original. Of course, I don't like to create anything and say, hey man, that's ripping off Batman or that's ripping
Mm,
off Spawn or something like that. So make sure there's originality, and that when we create this, that when people look at it, man, these cats go on a ride and they're on a journey, and I think that's another thing that's important. And so yeah, mainly that they have vision and that they're able to convey that, and that we can work together, and yeah, and it's ultimately something that I believe in as well. So that's kind of
yeah.
what I look out for. Make sure it's something that you yourself as an artist is it's something you can get behind. It's something you could support, and something that you could essentially be proud of. I
Mm,
think that's critical too. I think it makes the work better.
mm,
And it makes you do better.
definitely.
Yeah.
How much of the story did he pitch to you, or did he have it all completed by the time you started working, or have you been piecing it together as you go?
He pitched a good 90, 85 to 90% of the story to me. And like I said, I was able to see with uh, my own little through my own rose colored glasses. No matter what I read, I have my rose colored glasses on, and I'm able to always go, oh, wait a minute, what if this right here? Okay, and then that part right there. Uh, and so I was instantly, because it's a 6 page, or it's a six story, excuse me, a six book story arc.
Mm,
And so it goes through a little transition, obviously, from just what I tell you from him, taking mushrooms and having his rite of passage.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so ultimately I thought, oh man, hey man, here's a good idea, and here's a good idea there. And what it did is it gave it an ending or a bottom line, or just a punchline that most books don't pack. So there's quite a wallop in this story.
Mm,
Uh, and yeah, it's with us putting our heads together like that. It's just, trust me, anybody that gets into it, man, it's going to be quite the ride.
nice. So this book is mostly done traditionally, and you said you have the pages packed and ready to be sent. How are you guys
Yeah.
going to? How's it going to get printed? What are the next steps?
The next step is I went ahead and checked with my local post office and went to the UPS to see who
Mm,
was going to be cheapest. and found out what we had to do to, like I said, this is the first time I've ever sent any artwork overseas, or not overseas, but out of the country rather.
Mhm.
Sorry, I misspoke there.
No worries.
But yeah, it feels like it's going overseas with all the questions and everything that I had to, I even had to have Kevin's phone number in order to send this.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm going to go back and have it sent tomorrow, which is Monday. But anyhow, yeah, there's all the tightening of restrictions and stuff, so it's not easy just to send some paper and make sure it arrives safely
Mhm.
to another country anymore because of the COVID and all the restrictions. Yeah, that's also taking its toll on this. So I'm learning something there as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And you said you're working with a colorist too, right?
Yes, her name is Pamela Pagliotti. I do believe I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Mhm.
And she's man, she's uh, had her work published professionally in a number of different titles, none of which I can currently think of to tell you,
Or
unfortunately. But I'm sure that you can just Google her name and find,
okay.
uh, very quickly find some of her work. But
Is she gonna color it digitally or traditionally?
she is going to color it digitally.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's another instance where my work gets converted to digital
Mhm.
format so that she could work on it with with what she's got and
Wow.
do her thing with it as well. So I'm thinking it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be interesting to see what she does with it.
Definitely. Where is the book gonna be available for people to buy when all said and
Um,
done?
I know that you can find the currently he's got a few things in development, but I know that you can directly go to the Six Nations Facebook page and obtain a lot more information than I can think of off the top in terms of how to obtain some of the products because I'm doing variant covers, and he also wants to create, I think he said coffee mugs and T-shirts.
Okay.
So we're gonna have a couple of cool different options and stuff for people that want to go ahead and try to pre-order and things like that. So and he's got quite a few pre-orders right now. He's got several hundred pre-orders right now. So it's
Nice.
impressive just built up, what's built up just off of the art because he hasn't released any of the information,
Mhm.
anything that's critical to the storyline thus far. Just we're just showing the artwork and kind of let people get their, let people get their interpretation and tell us what they think. And the feedback's been phenomenal. I'll post a page and then it'll have, reached 2,000 people or so within like 14 or 16 hours. And, they're,
Nice.
hey, brother, did you see, man? Did you look onto the page? Take a look. And he'll contact me and be so excited. It's cool, man. It's really cool.
Cool. Why did you guys not decide to do a Kickstarter? Because that seems to be the more common route.
Well, he actually is, Mr. Bouchard is going to do a Kickstarter. He wants to create the product first
Hmm.
and then have a certain, or at least have a certain amount of the product that he wants to offer, the full color with the script and everything up. He wants to offer up uh, to the Kickstarter community before he, puts his hat, puts his foot in that arena rather. So I think once we have more of it done, because he's been talking about the Kickstarter things, and that's when you're going to see it on
Cool.
Kickstarter as well.
Cool. Cool. Um, so actually, should have asked this earlier. So this means that are you a full time writer and is he a full time? Are you a full time artist and he's a full time writer?
I am, but he currently is not. He is in school and he works for Apple. He is in
Okay.
management with that company, and so he is always working or having to work or on call or being crushed by him. So it's not it's not uncommon to go 2 or 3 days without hearing from him because he's just inundated with all kinds of different things, work and school. He's married, and so he has a wife, and all that kind of stuff. So it just kind of takes its toll. But I tell you what, we have really uh, just done everything we can and created something really super cool.
Cool, cool. But you're a full-time artist.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
How is that? I guess like the biggest concern I feel anyone might have in whether or not to become a full-time artist is just days when things are slow. Do you ever have kind of like the uncertainty of it? Like when you have things when things are slow, how do you manage that? How do you get back and ramp up to work and
Indeed,
keep
indeed.
motivated?
Uh, well, see, that's the thing. You basically want to make sure you're in a certain position, and make sure that not only that you can kind of understand the flow of the traffic and how it's going to be throttled and things like that, because you can't always foresee things. So what I always look for anymore is to make sure that whatever it is, it's a long term project. So for instance, I'm getting ready to do a 64-page graphic novel, and it's a horror, full on horror with other elements too. But yeah, so what that does is that can ensure from on a monthly basis, you know, but you have to establish all that first though, and that's generally the hardest part of any artist, that wants to do it for a living or take it on, full time,
Definitely.
so yeah, that's something I've learned too. So make sure that they have quite a few things established, and then that'll see to it that they can ride everything out smoother and understand the way the industry works a little bit better that way. And I think that gives foresight ultimately.
Cool. Do you what are some of I guess for you, maybe it's different for each person, but what are some of the busiest times of the year for you?
Usually like around Christmas and then after Christmas.
Okay.
So uh, that's usually always the best. And like 3 years is what I've got into it full blown. Like you could call professionally, and
Mhm.
that's the pattern that I've noticed is that you know around those times.
Okay. Sure. Um oh, so yeah, so you've been doing it for 3 years. Um when did it feel like was it slow at first and then when did it feel like things were picking up more and more like the work was just coming in pretty
Su-
consistent?
super slow at first. Yeah. Uh, in fact, I thought, well, what's the deal here? Am I inadequate? Is this,
Mhm.
are people not seeing this? But yeah, basically, you just have to keep doing what you're doing and believe in what you're doing. I know that sounds ridiculous and like everybody's heard it and all that stuff, but it's really true. You have to, because I'm also in a band, for instance, and so I have the same foresight with the band, and you just know that if you're going to create something good, then people will check it out,
For sure.
and
Do you
and a lot of times they'll want to be a part of it, and that's even cooler.
Yeah, definitely. Um do you think I don't know, do you think it's true for anyone who wants to just do their art, even if it's not full time, but just getting noticed, that it just takes time? Or do you think there comes a point when maybe you are just not good and you should move on to something else?
Yeah, I think there will come a time if an artist is his art is not up to snuff, then there will come a time when he'll understand that his needs are not in demand, and that's unfortunate. But the only reason that is because it's so cutthroat with the comic industry and the comic artists and stuff like that. And so, I mean, you really have to put your artwork up to next to the best of the best. And that's, I mean, dude, you're talking the McFarlanes and the Finches and David, and it's like, whoa, man, there are a lot of great artists. And so if you're not somewhere in that ballpark or, bringing something original, then it's, man, hang it up, because it's never, the editors can be, really cruel and things like that. So yeah, it's it's cutthroat.
Okay.
It's cutthroat.
Definitely. Um, what has been what's been, I guess, your greatest source of, in general, attention and also getting new clients? Is word of mouth still a big thing?
Um, Indeed, it is. In fact, I found that to be a greater source of revenue uh, through my oil paintings than I had ever thought. So, people actually just walking into someone's house and seeing the painting, go, "Whoa, oh, well, dude, I know how you can get one of those." What? you know? So, usually when they actually physically see something, and it's in their hands and they can hold it and touch it and feel it,
Yeah.
then otherwise it's there's just not that same impact. So I've noticed that with the oil paintings, but with the comic art, that has been, you know what, I'll have to say that's been, I do have a Deviantart. I do have a Deviantart page. I do have my own website, but I would have to say that the majority of the traffic, no doubt, has been from Facebook and the
Oh,
Facebook comic community and groups and stuff there.
that's cool. Because obviously, that's really interesting to say. Because there's always kind of there's trends. Like, first it was Facebook, and now of course, then everyone went to say Instagram, and now then everyone was going to TikTok. But, and so it sort of feels like those old platforms can become obsolete. But like you're saying,
Yeah,
that it still works.
man, it still works. I'll tell you 100%. That's where I met Kevin. That's where I met the cat that I'm doing this, Mr. John Edward Hill, that I'm doing this. God bless you, Chef, by the way, if you catch this program. The one that I'm doing this here, marijuana hair character, Major Chronic. Uh, yeah, so, I mean, all my comic art, that's where it's coming through. So, yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I'm just recently started doing the Instagram thing.
Mhm.
So, I'm one of them cats that doesn't carry a cell phone, believe it or not. This device that I'm using right here never leaves the house. It just runs on the Wi-Fi. So it's basically like my little personal computer. And yeah, that's just kind of how I operate. So I'm kind of strange in that regard.
for, for sure. Um, what what is and I'd just like to say we've got a couple viewers in already. If anyone has any questions at any point, feel free to throw them out. And we'll definitely get to it.
What out
Definitely get to
there?
it and showcase it. Yeah, so far we have one comment from W.A. Blinko, who he's a writer on YouTube, and he's kind of documenting his journey about
Okay.
publishing his books and being a writer. So thank you for joining, and thank you for the comment too.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Blinko. Glad we
And
could add some insight.
yeah, um, so what's a typical day for you look like?
Generally, what I'll do is the day before, I'll plan out, what I'm gonna lay out or what I got to accomplish in that day, and I like to do a page a day.
Mm,
Usually is my thing. I feel like that I'm getting a lot more done if I'm making sure I do a page a day. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily work out like that. Sometimes I'll have to go back and forth with the writer, uh, you know, no matter what project I'm on, and there'll be times where I'll have to go, hold on, man, I have a few questions, and I have to ask in terms of sequential art. That is, when it comes to sequential art, because continuity is very important. And
mm,
so sometimes you'll have to let them know, well, there are two actions in this particular panel, so it has to be expressed. You can't do two things at once in one, simple setting. So, I have to go back and say, okay, so I got to rehash this, I'll do this, and I'll add this and stuff. But so that might slow it down. But generally, I like to do a page a day, and I'm that's what I like. That's what I'm getting up to. That's about where my rate is. My rate is right now. So, like I said, sometimes it'll take two, maybe 3 days. If there's a lot of details, sometimes if, for instance, there's a page I did where I had like 100 different villagers that were attending the ceremony, and that one took me, like 2 or 3 days to finish.
Wow. Sure. How about an oil painting? How long? Or yeah, how long does it take to finish an oil painting?
Oil paintings, they go a lot quicker.
Okay.
Only in the regards that I got one right here by George. Only in the regards that once you slap it on, you really just kind of want to do your thing and
Mhm.
and work it out.
Okay. That's I know his name, the actor. Maybe you just said it, but yeah, Goodwin, right?
You're entering a world of pain. Yes, yes, John Goodman.
That's
Yeah,
it.
Walter Sobchak right there.
Okay, okay. Wait, so which movie is that?
That is from The Big Lebowski.
Lebowski. Okay, take it. And oh, I had a question about. I had something about your other for your art. Oh yeah, like figuring out what to charge for your rates. Does that is it kind of case by case? How do you or just how do you decide what your rates
Yeah,
are to charge?
it's generally always negotiable. It depends on like the person and things like that. I always like to add in the human equation. So
Hmm.
my heart gets a hold of me, and I got it. Like for instance with Kevin, I cut him a little bit of slack and did the pages for less than my normal rate because of the Canadian exchange rate and how much he
Mhm.
was paying with that. So I took that into consideration and stuff, and you know that way these cats can just create whatever they want to create, and I can hook them up.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So is the Joaquin Phoenix Joker your favorite, or do you have a favorite Joker?
Oh yeah, this was my first oil painting right here,
Ah,
and that's
Nicholson.
by far my favorite Joker too.
Nice. Very cool. Um, oh, do you mostly do horror paintings? Horror. Well, Joker isn't horror so much, but he is kind of
Uh,
horrifying.
no, I actually have done. I want to say about different five different paintings now of just people's family members and paintings in remembrance.
Mhm.
So yeah, I do photo, I do photo realism and stuff, and
Cool.
and all kinds of just like portraits, and anything that people can think of, anything they can fathom,
Mhm.
from Frank Berzetta to just good old grandma with the puppy dog. Then I'm usually down like Charlie Brown. You know what I mean, with a
Yeah,
frown upside down.
nice. How do you balance, you know, balance your own personal projects that keeps you creatively fulfilled, and then with work projects, freelance, yeah,
Well,
commissions.
what I like to do is I like to usually have several different things I can do. So, for instance, if I start to get burned out drawing the same thing too much, I can go, okay, well, I got to design this logo today.
Hmm.
So I'll do that, and then I also take into account, like you say, other things, which other projects, which would be the band, and that's always a good outlet too, and it's a good way to be creative and productive and things like that. So uh, with the two, I think it's just ultimately, there's it's just the best outlets.
Definitely,
It's cathartic.
for
So
sure.
it's just rewarding, ultimately when things start turning around and finally start coming back to you, you know.
Nice. Yeah. Was there ever is there ever a fear, like, you love to do art and you love to do these things, but like, there are days when it's work. is that ever kind of worrying? Because, when it starts to feel like work, then you're like, oh, am I going to stick with it? Because, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've had a few instances of that, and I think that's all about maturing as an artist and becoming a more mature artist.
Hmm.
It's like you're going to have to come to the realization that if you're going to be an artist and a professional artist, then there are going to be times when you're going to draw things that you don't want to draw, and so when that occurs, and you got to have, not only does it help to have the know-how, but the discipline required to get that done, you know. And so yeah, that's all part of it. That's all part of it. And that's why I say it's good to, when you pick your project, make sure that it's something that you believe in, and something that you think is cool, and something that you enjoy.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So then that because that alleviates a lot of that ultimately.
That's good. Okay, okay, yeah. Point. Um, I wanted to ask, some of your both artistic inspirations or favorite comics and also music inspirations.
Oh wow, yeah, I have a ton. Artistically, like I said, Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee, Neil Adams and John Byrne, and of course, like Frank Frazetta and Boris Vallejo. Um, Leonardo is my all-time favorite artist. So Leonardo da Vinci, um, for sure, is on that list. In terms of music, I could go for days and days and days and days, because I got my CDs right here. As you can see, it's just,
Whoa,
yeah,
nice.
an
And they're
endless
organized.
amount. But in terms of music, I love the old school, like 1988 and before, Metallica. Slayer's always been one of my favorite bands. Pantera has been one of my favorite bands, and Black Sabbath and Ozzy, and good rock and roll bands like Clutch. Um, I love the Old Doors and Jimi Hendrix, and when I was a kid, my main thing was the Eurythmics, and
Okay.
Michael Jackson's Thriller was one of my all-time favorite albums. So that's kind of dating me, but so I'm just, and of course my mom grew up on Motown, so I grew up listening to a lot of Diana Ross and the Supremes and things like that. So I've had a lot of different musical tastes and varieties injected into my brain, so it helps to create some pretty awesome, music when we're going for that heavy, gnarly sound.
Nice. Which came first, music or art?
Art, definitely, because it was just something that we noticed first. For instance, my parents noticed first. I was in second grade, and
Hmm.
my teacher, her name was Mrs. K, Kay,
Hmm.
and I remember I had a crush on Mrs. K, actually, but she contacted my mom. We had some kind of project where she said, "Okay, I want you guys to draw your living room." And so I drew the TV, and the TV, the cord plugged into the wall, and the ceiling fan, and like the whole setting and everything. And she contacted my mom. She's like, "You realize that your son is like an artist here,
Hmm.
uh, Mrs. Williams?" And my mom didn't necessarily know that, but at that point she did. So yeah, so that kind of came first, but I didn't really springboard right into it. I didn't I didn't have much support in that area, so I didn't really stick too much with it. I wasn't seeking it out, but when I found guitar, then oh man, I quit everything. I quit playing baseball and playing sports and all that stuff. Didn't show up to practice no more, and it was just, yeah, it was all guitar from then on out, no doubt
Cool.
about it. And by seventh grade, I had my first band. Me and my old buddy, old John Finley, and I remember my buddy Mike Ballard. We was in a band, and just we was just kids. We were just kids. But old Billy Sir Top.
Okay.
But yeah, so then when the music took over, it was like, man, I'm on a mission now.
Nice. And I think I see a cat in the background.
Yeah, that's who I just let in the door. That's my
Oh,
little puppy. That's little Sheba. That's my drummer's cat, actually.
okay.
She just she just follows me. She follows me all around. She's my little buddy.
Oh, nice. Um, do you think it seems? I don't know. It always seemed like there's some kind of correlation, or at least people, yeah, correlation between people who like comics and also like punk rock and metal and rock music. Where do you think that comes from?
Um, I think that comes from the graphic content that you can obtain from both, and
Hmm.
that also that raw, brutal truth that can be obtained from both. Because it doesn't seem like that there's anywhere else in society where that's being offered up. You know, everything else is being sugar coated,
Hmm.
and so that's why, like, for instance, heavy metal's always been music's, redheaded stepchild, so to speak. So yeah, and and there's that element also with comic books, because I remember growing up, there was just a certain type of cat that we was into comics, and we knew when we saw some, oh, what's up, that they were also into comics, and it wasn't cool, so
Right.
then all this stuff became cool, and you see Kardashians with Slayer shirts on, you say, what's your favorite Slayer song, and they don't even
I
know.
don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, us nerds have known all along, man.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. It is, yeah, it is weird. I don't know. It's kind of, how do you feel? It's kind of mixed feelings. Or how do you feel about it when something you've known all along was cool and then finally mainstream decides it's cool? Is it like good? Is it bad?
Sometimes it's bittersweet,
Mm.
sometimes it's really cool and sometimes it's not so cool, like I say, and it can be bittersweet. And you can lose some of your favorite things to that mainstream monster, to that cash machine, as it were. And, that's when it sucks. For instance, that's why Slayer's always been one of my favorite bands, because they've just always done what they do, and they haven't changed at all for anybody in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So you knew that when Slayer or when Pantera, or, when certain bands put out an album, you were getting a full fledged punch in the face that you asked for, and it's like everything that when it goes corporate or it gets watered down, it's like, man, you kind of just took something from me. And I
Mhm.
used to be a big fan of Slipknot, for instance. Like, their first two albums, I think, are just phenomenal. Then after that, they really kind of started to fall off, and
Mhm.
you saw the dollar signs in their eyes. And I saw them in concert a good 6 or 7 times. And the first time I saw them in concert um, was on the Ozfest tour, which was their very first tour, and they were
Mhm.
on the second stage, in fact, and nobody even knew who they were. So the first time I heard them was live, and that was for the very first album. So I got to see them go through the transformation, and then when they started to get the dollar signs in their eyes, you'd see them in concert. They were just kind of going through the motions,
Mhm.
and it wasn't the same. It's like, oh man, sometimes that can really ruin it.
Yeah, definitely. If
Sometimes.
so, let's say you become mainstream and like just I don't know, huge deal. How would you feel about that? And then how would you like make sure to, like you say, not get watered down and stay your most authentic self artistically?
Well, anybody that knows me knows that, I'm no different whether I got, 80 grand in my account or 8 cents, in my account. So the money's never an issue. I give people a shirt off my back. That's just how I've always been. And I've always been humble and stuff. So I'd probably still go have my own oil change and all that good stuff. And I wouldn't want it to affect me. So I wouldn't get absorbed by certain particular clicks and things like that, and I wouldn't let that rule me. For instance, like how they got what I call cancer culture or cancel
Mm.
culture. I don't let that affect me. You know what I mean? It's like people that know me are my friends, and people that know how I am know I'm honest, and so That's just, whether I'm playing music or being an artist or just being myself, people get to know who you are, and it's like, yeah, none of that stuff should, adversely affect you. And if it does, then don't get mixed up in it. So
Mm.
yeah, I'll stay out of all the negative stuff and just still hang with all my good old buddies and do my normal stuff. And yeah, I mean, might buy that pool table with the blue felt on it though.
Okay. Okay. I like well I be cool to see where you if you ever do and where you put it, because I like that just from you walking around the house a bit, it's like there's so much space in your house and not
Yeah.
like crazy amounts of furniture. I think that's great. I love that.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of keep it raw and real.
Yeah. Yeah, see, this is great. I'm glad it's not cluttered with more furniture or extra things. It's just very, very spacious.
Crystal blue persuasion right there.
Aw, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, she's a good little buddy.
Yeah. So
What?
what's next on the horizon? New projects, new artwork. What's or I guess even what's your big plan for 2021? Because 2020 is kind of got through it, but
Yeah, yeah. By George, we made it. Luckily, by the
yeah.
skin of our teeth, because things got weird there for a
Oh,
minute,
yeah. It was
But
weird
yeah,
every
we're
week.
making it. Interestingly enough, recording music with the band. That's a big thing for 2021. In fact, my drummer's actually already started recording the drum tracks and stuff. So once he gets that done, then I get to start to, lay the guitar and the vocals and stuff like that. And things get really interesting and exciting there. And on the art front, I do have some paintings that I'm getting ready to. Once I complete those, I'll release those online, and I'm
Yeah.
going to add a lot more stuff to my website because that's going to be updated soon as well. And so, in terms of the art, yeah, I'm going to do that graphic novel, which is going to be cool. I'm in talks with three other clients also that have supernatural story.
Cool.
And one is a superhero story, and actually two of them are superhero stories. I'm kind of looking to do some superhero stuff. And then, of
Nice.
course, the horror graphic novel, like I was saying. But I do have some odds and ends. So, for instance, there's a writer. His name's Robert Fisher,
Mhm.
and he has written a quadrilogy now of Shadow World books,
Mhm.
and each one of the Shadow World books is pretty interesting. I actually jumped in and became his artist, his cover artist for the last two novels.
Nice.
I was lucky enough to contribute. Yeah, Hell to Pay was the third part, and then the fourth part was Death Incorporated.
Mhm.
And then I just recently did a T-shirt design for him, so that's going to be released soon as
Cool.
well, and I think that'll be cool. But yeah, just I'm always in talks and with different people and trying to find interesting things and ideas and projects I'd like to be a part of. And yeah, it's as I go along, it seems to get more and more interesting. So
Good. That's good.
that kind of just that kind of helps feed the fire, so to speak.
For sure. Well, we're coming up on our hour here. And want to let you get back to your day, of course. Is there anything specific you want to talk more about or promote? You want people to check out?
If you notice my name, it's Aaron Zeta Reddick Williams. Zeta Reddick is the name of my band. So I sing and play guitar, and I also do a column on YouTube called Riff Doctor. So they can check that out if they want to chuckle, because basically I just feed them a riff and a chuckle, and I was kind of doing it every day and stuff. But yeah, the Zeta Reddick band, and of course the Riff Doctor, and you can always check out AaronWilliamsArt.com and contact me through there, or like I say, jump in any of the comic book group pages or groups on the Facebook pages, and I'll friend you through that, and uh, maybe check out the Instagram. But other than that, yeah, I mean that that's about all she that's about all I got for you right there.
Cool,
Just try to
cool.
keep everything ripping and running.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for making the time today and showing some of your artwork. And I don't know, I just like that you were moving around. I think that was fun. That was fun for me. You were around, and
Awesome.
yeah,
I felt like it needed it.
yeah, definitely appreciate it. But yeah, thank you so much, and looking forward to all your future projects. I still have to write up the description for this video, but I'll be sure to include all the links you mentioned and anything extra you want people to see and go to.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I trust your discretion, so that'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, yeah, everyone definitely support Aaron's artwork, books he's got coming out. Commission him if you want to get some really detailed, amazing art or something horrifying for your wall. Definitely
Indeed.
check him out.
Indeed.
All right, gonna sign